Hello. Today I'm going to discuss my top 10 Super Nintendo games. This console is just drowning in gems. Beautiful gameplay, fascinating worlds to explore. Let's dive right in. Number 10 for me is SOS. The game has such an unusual premise. You're on a ship that's sinking. They began to make use of the new technology which allowed them to make the backgrounds circle around the player. So everything begins normally. You're setting sail, you're getting to know the other people who are on board, and then suddenly, crash. And as the ship begins tipping and rolling, and sometimes flipping completely upside down, you have to navigate off of the ship and save as many people as you can. Depending on your character that you've chosen, some of the other personalities on the ship are linked to you in a certain way, and you get more points at the end by rescuing those personalities. And it really becomes scary when the ballroom that you were just occupying and having a tipple in is now lolling on its side and water is rising. It's very scary. Number 9 for me is the game Blackthorn. This took an exciting and dangerous world outfitted with gruesome beasts, kind of like troll monsters, and it has like a puzzle aspect, almost like Lost Vikings, and the protagonist has a big shotgun, and he can hide in the shadows a little bit to dodge bullets, and it was so forward in its violence, and an early example of just using firearms to slay these dangerous monsters. An excellent game. It's also kind of got that Prince of Persia vibe, the original old game. And the dark imagery and the very likable, dangerous protagonist are what secured a spot for Blackthorn. Okay, number 8 for me is Rock and Roll Racing. I've always been a fan of the 3/4 or the full top-down racing style games. Another one on the regular Nintendo was Super Sprint that I liked a lot. Just simple gameplay. And Rock and Roll Racing, first of all, it's in outer space. Great. You've got alien creatures. You outfit your racing vehicles. It's got the greatest soundtrack probably of all of the Super Nintendo games, using songs from like Ozzy Osbourne and classic rock tunes, but of course they sound like chip tunes, but they really add a lot of color and depth and excitement to the game. The courses themselves are really exciting, and it's just a really fun game overall to play with your friends and just, make their cars explode. The aliens were cool. It had one that was kind of like an alien xenomorph that I always used, and some other like futuristic rock and roll types, cyberpunk style. Okay. Number 7 for me is Contra III, The Alien Wars. This is just an example of the Super Nintendo taking something that was already beautifully executed on the Nintendo and just ramping it all up, creating a vibrant, extremely fun, and well-developed game. The controls are so wonderful. The imagery is beautiful. I love games where you can update your character and develop your weapons and stuff like that. Contra III is a standout. Extraterrestrials are involved. That's always a plus. Also, it's got this like cybernetic, monstrous, demonic entities that you have to do battle with. Fascinating, wonderful, robust gameplay. Contra III is excellent title. Number 6, keeping in line with games where you upgrade your dude, we have Gradius 3. I still remember renting this game and sitting in front of the TV, and the lights begin turning on, and then you can see the ship taking off. And the cinematography was so wonderful. It was one of the early games that really struck me as being an art piece. And another one was Ninja Gaiden on the Nintendo. I was at my grandmother's house one time playing that, and when the two ninjas are running toward each other, and they jump and they're striking at each other in the air, it just sets the stage for this grand, vast, and epic game. Wonderful side-scrolling action sci-fi shooter with hidden levels. The stages are very diverse. Everything from like Mayan ruin civilizations to bubble worlds and creatures of all kinds. I love that you can develop your ship any way that you want. You can do sort of a la carte decision making about which weapons you're going to outfit your craft with. Really fun, and so many of the different play styles can yield great results. And to get the furthest in the game, it's best to do the one where you make these bubbles form around your ship, and you have 5 options spinning around you in a circle, and that way you become this impenetrable wall of it's like having a shield on throughout the entire game session. Number 5 for me is FZero. Ooh, it's got to be my favorite racing game of all time. I would draw in my notebooks in middle school, and I would make up all these moves for the ships. This is another, of course, outer space themed game, and I really wish I still had those drawings, because I had given names to all the different techniques and really got immersed in that world. The music's great. I can still hear all of the soundtrack in my mind. The design of the levels is excellent. The challenge is so great. It's very well done and robust game. I really wish I played the other F-Zero games. I know there was one on one of the handhelds, and I think that they even came out with some later gen ones. But I always played the red ship, because it's slowest to get up to its top speed, but once it maxes out, it's unbeatable. And level design, they made really good use of the technology, making this it does have the rubber banding effect where all the other racing cars are always kind of mashed up around you. There's really not any relief, but that just makes it fun and more challenging. Number 4 for me, Mortal Kombat 2. Ooh, I was into Mortal Kombat big time. And in fact, when this game was released on Super Nintendo, I devoted so much effort into learning the button combos that I could do everybody's fatality, all the special moves for everyone. This is when I really developed a love for my favorite characters in the franchise. The ultra-violence and the gore, it was so stimulating. I had an evocative fantasy world, outfitted with wonderful personalities. The creators of that game have painted a masterful world, and I'm really, really excited to be a fan and to see how far they take it in later years. It's the best fighting game franchise of all time, and Mortal Kombat 2 is really when they stretched out, because you only had maybe 7 characters in the first game, but then they doubled it at least, and they gave everybody such gruesome fatalities. Wonderful. Okay, now we get to the Holy Trinity, the top of the list. These are all games that are quite similar to one another. Number 3, for me, Final Fantasy III, also known as Final Fantasy VI in Japan. Talk about cinematography and a well-fleshed-out universe, regarded as one of the best RPG storylines ever made. Everything is so wonderful, from the opening scene to the operatic scene. The whole cast of characters are so diverse, and they have relationships with one another. You have like the typical knight who's on a heroic errand, and then you have like more tainted characters and broken personalities and hidden characters you can find. It's such a wonderful world. The later games, well, I played Final Fantasy 1, of course, on the regular Nintendo, and Final Fantasy 7 on the PlayStation. And those are the 3 games in the series that I gave the most attention to. When they started adding in more fanciful elements, they got it a little bit further away from the strict guidelines of fantasy slash industrial tech world. I don't know, I lost interest. I tried the other games, but this is a masterpiece, and I really have thought many times about getting the iOS version and playing through it again. I just don't think I would really have the time. However, my number 2 game I have played on iOS, and that is Secret of Mana. The action RPG style is a little more exciting to me than the turn-based Final Fantasy style. The music catapults this game higher and higher. The excitement of having that triumvirate of characters, one doing assault magic, one doing healing magic, and one being the kind of the tank, makes it perfect. It's just this beautiful union. The artwork and the world itself is kind of fanciful, but there's a lot of dread and a lot of dreary elements to the storyline. You can tell that it's a world in turmoil and there's a lot of suffering going on. It's wonderful. Once again, it's a masterpiece of the action RPG genre. I know that other games are out there that were placed in this world that I've not played. I think it's just so exciting to me. It's a vibrant, colorful, and rich environment. As you develop your characters, you get lots of different items you can use. So you can choose whether you want to attack with a whip or a sword, or a number of different things like a shuriken, sort of boomerang, Xena weapon. Very well fashioned and beautiful in every regard. Fantastic game. But number 1 for me is the top of the heap in action RPG games, The Legend of Zelda, A Link to the Past. Hyrule really came to life, crackled to life. It took the magic of the first game and layered it with so much beautiful chrome, an excellent, robust world. You can get lost in it. The map is so expertly made with different regions of all kinds. The skills you can develop, the enemies you face, the story, it's fantastic. A perfect game. And I did play through it again over the last 5 years or so, and it's still just as wonderful as it always was. Very tough to dethrone Link. Alright then, so there you have it. My top 10 games from this beautiful console. I think that I have the most vivid memories of playing Super Nintendo games.